Hi, this is Nicholas Yock, a registered migration agent from Pathway to Oz. Today I'm going to discuss with you the Australian Partner Visa, or the Onshore Partner Visa, Subclass 820 and 801. So as I said before, this is only for someone who is applying for the Partner Visa onshore. So if you're offshore, or you're partnered with a New Zealand citizen, or you're looking at a prospective marriage visa, there's a separate video for that. So to apply for the Australian Partner Visa onshore, you need to be with an Australian citizen or permanent resident who will technically sponsor your visa. You might have heard the Australian Partner Visa go by a few different names: the spousal visa, de facto visa, something like that. It doesn't matter, they're all the same visa. So if you're married or in a de facto relationship or anything like that, you're still just applying for the Australian Partner Visa. So to be able to apply for this visa, you must have a partner who is an Australian citizen or permanent resident. You must be inside Australia, and you must meet the de facto or the spousal requirements. So when you apply for this visa from within Australia, you'll be granted a bridging visa. You're granted this bridging visa technically usually as soon as you apply. So the minute you apply, you're granted this bridging visa automatically. The bridging visa is awesome. It has full work rights, has access to Medicare, and will allow you to remain in Australia until there's been a decision on your visa. However, please note, you would not move onto the bridging visa until your current visa expires. So let's say, for example, that you come to Australia on a visitor visa, which goes for 90 days. 10 days in, you lodge the application for a partner visa, and you get granted this bridging visa. However, the bridging visa would just sit underneath your visitor visa, which goes for another 80 days. So you don't actually go onto the bridging visa until your visitor visa expires within 80 days, after 80 days. And then you automatically just transition onto the bridging visa, which has full work rights and access to Medicare. So you don't move on to the bridging visa until your previous visa expires. So what is the process? Well, as long as you're in Australia and you have a valid sponsor, you lodge the application through the IMI account or the IMI portal. Look, completing the application, it's the easy part. The most difficult part is providing the documentation needed to meet the spousal or de facto requirements. The government doesn't care, or immigration don't care how much you love each other or how long you've been together, or what the relationship is like. They care about the documentation you can provide in front of them to show them that you meet these de facto requirements. So that's the tricky part. There is a separate video we have explaining sort of all about what documentation you need and meeting the de facto requirement. So we'll put the link to that below. Please note, meeting the de facto or meeting the spousal requirement is a time of application criteria. So this means you need to provide the documentation when you lodge. You can't in 6 months' time, provide additional documentation. I mean, you can, but immigration don't need to consider that, as it's not provided at the time of application. You need to provide everything and ensure you meet the de facto requirement when you lodge. Pretty much my one piece of advice is, as soon as you know you want to apply for Australian Partner Visa, start preparing as early as possible. Think about all the documentation you can get and put it all together. So how long is the processing time? Well, long. When you apply for the partner visa, you typically apply for the temporary and the permanent visa at the same time. And it takes a really long time to process. I think immigration currently shows it can take up to 30 months to process. And since I've been a migration agent for the last 6 or 7 years, it just keeps blowing out and blowing out and blowing out. So I don't see that shortening in any time in the future. However, obviously in this time when you are on the bridging visa, you do have work rights, you do have access to Medicare, you do have all those things that you would usually on a partner visa. A lot of times actually it is better for it to take over 24 months, as if the processing takes over 24 months, you'll be granted the permanent visa just straight away. You don't need to worry about getting granted a temporary visa and then sort of moving on to the permanent. It's just the permanent straight away that you'll be granted. So what is the cost for this visa? Well, it's not cheap. The current cost at time of filming this is $7,715. However, when you do pay for it, you pay for the temporary and the permanent at the same time, so there's no additional costs. So does the Australian sponsor need to do anything? I mean, not really. They need to provide some police checks, copies of their passports, obviously evidence that they're an Australian citizen or permanent resident, and they need to fill out a short application form after you lodge as well, but it's quite brief for them. All right, so some frequently asked questions. So, can I travel in and out of Australia on the partner visa? The short answer is yes. Look, when you're granted your bridging visa and you're on the bridging visa, you'll initially be granted a bridging visa A. However, if you do want to travel in and out of Australia, you'll need to apply for a bridging visa B. Very simple process, costs $155, takes about less than 2 weeks. There's a separate video, we'll put the link below to how to apply for a bridging visa B. All right, so if I am on a student visa, can I cancel it and move on to the bridging visa for the partner visa? So this is a question we are often asked. So the short answer is no, not really. Look, if you've got 2 years left on your student visa and you meet your partner and you don't want to pay school fees, you don't want to stop going to school, you can't just stop and cancel that student visa. Because if you apply for the partner visa, you're granted that bridging visa, but you don't actually move on to it until your student visa is cancelled. And if you chose to cancel your student visa, it would also cancel the bridging visa underneath it as well. So it'd actually make you unlawful in Australia. I mean, some alternatives, you could apply for a visitor visa. There's a few other things. We'll put a link to an article below about it. We've written an article because we're asked this question so much, but it's probably safest not to. What if my partner and I break up? Well, if your partner and you break up when you're on the bridging visa or the temporary visa, technically you're supposed to inform immigration, who would then cancel the visa and you'd need to leave Australia. However, if you've already been granted the permanent visa and you and your partner break up, you're already a permanent resident of Australia, so you don't need to leave. I believe this gives you a general sort of overview of some of the requirements for a partner visa. Please note the information provided is general in nature and would recommend booking in for a consultation with a registered migration agent if you want to sort of further discuss your situation. Thank you.